A blessed and a pleasant morning, Mom, and my classmates. I hope everyone is in a good condition, safe, and healthy. By the way, I'm Robert D. Infante Jr., a senior high school teacher too. Today, I'll be going to discuss all about the impacts of nuclear power plants to the environment. Without further ado, let's start now. A nuclear power plant is a type of power plant that used to generate electricity using heat from nuclear reactions. Well, these reactions occur within a reactor, and electricity generated by a nuclear power plants is referred to as nuclear power. There are about 499 nuclear reactors operating in 30 different countries around the world. Nuclear power plants produce 10% of the world electricity. Imagine that. And now let's move on to how nuclear power plant works. Nuclear power plants obtain the heat needed to produce steam through a physical process known as fission. And how a nuclear power plant might cause impacts. Generally speaking, nuclear power plants impact the surrounding environment through its massive water consumption, radioactivity, and greenhouse gas air pollution. Well, these impacts on the environment include also issues such as air and water pollution, as well as land degradation. That's it. And next we have natural resources impacts. The first one we have air. Operating power plants that burn coal, oil, or natural gas emit air pollutants into the atmosphere, requiring the plant be fitted with pollution control equipment to reduce emission. Well, many of these power plant air pollutants have been identified and regulated by federal and state environmental regulatory agencies. Next, we have global climate. The planet's ability to retain solar heat is dependent on concentrations of what we so-called greenhouse gases that are in the atmosphere. This impact could include rising sea levels, melting of glaciers, and polar ice caps, altered ocean currents, climate alterations, and wider ranges of insect-borne disease of humans and crops. And the third one we have water quantity. Many power plants use water from lakes, rivers, municipal water utilities, or groundwater aquifers. Of course, surface of water is often used for plant cooling, and groundwater is often for plant processes. Cooling towers after often utilized to condense the steam produced in power plant operation, moving heat by contact in the towers with the either air or separate water supply. That's it. And the fourth one, we have a water quality. Power plants must discharge or dispose of processes water someplace. Well, pollution and pollutants discharge to surface water from power plants can result in adverse water quality effects. And the fifth one, we have wetlands. Power plants with a large constructions footprint often require filling or draining some wetlands. The construction of power plant access routes through wetlands can change the quantity or direction of water flow, causing permanent damage to wetland, soils, and vegetation. Also, in land and soil, if the plant is built on land that is not level, extensive earth moving and digging activities may be necessary. Soil erosions and sedimentation into nearby waters or wetland is a risk. That's it. And we have the seven natural resources impacts. We have vegetation. Power plants emit air pollutants and water vapor as fog into the atmosphere that could affect the growth and survival of certain vegetation communities. Some pollutants are toxins or promote disease that damage the plants. Also, in wildlife, the impacts on local or migrating wildlife could occur when their habitat and source of food is removed or damaged. The food source could be vegetation itself or bugs, animals, birds, or organisms that rely on vegetation for food, nesting, and the areas would be destroyed. Also, we have protected species, a number of species of plants, birds, mammals, reptiles, insects, and crustaceans are affected. These species have small populations that are particularly vulnerable to habitat disturbance or destruction. That's it. And let's move on to community resources impacts. The first one, we have agriculture. Farmlands, particularly prime farmlands areas having more fertile soils, are valuable resource, of course. Construction of power plants, facilities on local farmlands would permanently take those files out of agricultural production and could affect the economic viability of the farm and indirectly the local farm community. The second one, we have airspace. All power plant structures, such as transmission towers, exhaust stacks, or wind turbines, can potential hazards to aircraft attempting to land or to take off. And the third one, we have noise. Noise from power plant is a particular concern to nearby residents, medical facilities, schools, daycares, or users of nearby parks or other recreational places. Also, noise have different frequencies, can have different effects. Heavy vibrations can be annoying to nearby residents or can cause damage to structures. And the last one, we have fugitive dust. Fugitive dust is blowing from an industrial site, construction site, or farm fields. Also, the dust become a nuisance in nearby neighborhood, face and lung irritant, or a visual obstacle in nearby streets. That's it. Next, we have a video regarding the terrible effects of a nuclear power plants to the environment.
Three reasons why we should.
And we have the conclusion. The environmental impact this nuclear power plant possess its massive water consumption, producing water vapor and increase in temperature. Radiation emission from fission of uranium impact human health and existing fossil fuel infrastructure contributing to global climate change, such as natural events like more powerful storms, large floods, and extreme hot days. In an attempt to minimize the environmental impact of a nuclear power plant and greenhouse gases, policies need to be put in place through best management practices for sustainability. Again, we have the summary of the impacts of a nuclear power plants to the environment. We have economic impacts, social impacts, environmental impacts includes acid gas emission, greenhouse gas emission, nuclear accident, water pollution, air pollution, shortage of coolants, and increase of radiation. Also, we have solutions by using of renewable resources, green energy, recycling, walking, cycling instead of car, wind generators, wave generators. And for the recommendation, we have to build a strong law and regulations regarding building nuclear power plants, a policy that need to be put in place through best management practices for sustainability. We must use renewable energy resources instead and be an eco warrior. That's it. Thank you for listening. God bless us all. Thank you, Mom and my classmates. Keep safe. Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Mark chapter 11 verse 74. Again, this is Robert D. Infante Jr., a senior high school teacher too, sending love and virtual hugs. Blessed morning.